Can use this, yeah. All right. So, distinguished guests, I would like to address today's seminar, which is about the restoration of the former public tobacco factory in Athens and its inaugural exhibition called The Portals. Now, the story begins in the 19th century under the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, to give you a picture, it covered the Balkans Peninsula all the way up to Vienna, and then covered North Africa all the way to Morocco, including the Arabic Peninsula. So we're talking about a massive landmass. And in the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire was in decline. Nevertheless, from the 16th century onwards, the tobacco introduction to the empire, although it was banned in the beginning, through the centuries, it became interwoven with the Turkish society, the Ottoman Turkish society. And that included the coffee houses. So, in the 19th century, coffee houses and tobacco consumption in the Ottoman Empire became dominant. You can see in the photo there's an illustration, actually it's not a photo, it's an illustration of the 19th century coffee houses and tobacco consumption in Istanbul. Yeah, but sure, this doesn't move, man. Hello, this doesn't move. Oh, okay. So, sorry for the collapse here. Well, in 1883, the existing tobacco factories of the Ottoman Empire were closed down, and Ottoman officials, they decided to create a new company under the name of Régie. Régie in French means privilege, and also it means monopoly in English. So what the Régie company did was a consortium of the Ottoman Bank, the Kreditanstalt from Germany, and the Bleichroeder Bank. There were groups, German groups in fact, and the company was founded under the premise that the Ottoman Empire will grant monopoly rights to the domestic tobacco market. So the company began its operations in 1884, and it was the largest foreign investment corporation within the empire. So what happened was that the Régie established factories in the major Ottoman cities and also ports. They were employing at the time approximately 3,000 people, mainly women and children, and they were producing cut tobacco, cigarettes, and snuff. Snuff is tobacco powder for snuffing, as the word suggests. I got another photo here. There's a photo in reality of a coffee house in Istanbul. People are actually smoking not cigarettes but hubble bubble, and they're drinking their coffee. Yeah, but sure this doesn't move. Now what happened at the same time was that Régie had the monopoly for tobacco for the domestic markets, but there were also two other major players in this in the markets. One was the smugglers, and the other one was the export merchants. Now, the smugglers, they were doing a fantastic job because they approached the growers, the tobacco growers, and they were selling tobacco to them, and then they were cutting the cigarettes in the tobacco in workshops, cutting them into cigarettes, and they were selling them in the informal economy. As it says there, an Ottoman official estimated that smugglers sold approximately 12 million kilograms of tobacco in 1888, while the Régie was very far behind of that figure. And the other thing was that the regime had no monopoly rights over the exports of tobacco leaves. So in the regions that they produced high quality tobacco, that is, the growers, they sold the bulk of their tobacco leaves to export merchants that they were in reality unaffiliated to the regime. So fast forward in 1905, 88% of the tobacco sold in all major production cities, it went to warehouses of these export merchants. Now, what happened by that time was that in the early 20th century, the dominance of the tobacco merchants in central districts derived also from a massive increase on cigarette production and also consumption in the last 2 decades of the 19th century. The other thing was that we had modern technology at the time, which made cigarette production mechanized. And also, we have the advent of mass advertising in the following decades. So this had a massive effect on the Ottoman Empire economy and also society, because major cigarette producers in Europe and also the United States, they began to depend on high-quality tobacco leaf imports from the Balkan, Egyptian, and also Anatolian provinces of the Ottoman Empire, which they were using for cigarette blends and also to create brands. Now here's an example and a photo of the Régie tobacco in a tin box that they were selling them during the monopoly times. The tin boxes, usually they had approximately 100 cigarettes inside. The box, by the way, is beautiful. And it says there, Constantinople, which is the old name of Istanbul, and the rest is written in French. Les seules cigarettes turques authentiques, which means the only cigarettes, the only Turkish cigarettes that they are authentic. Now we got two other examples here. One is a carton box, the other one is a tin box. And these are cigarette brands from Greek tobacco merchants that they were operating in the United States and also in Egypt. Egypt, by the way, was part of the Ottoman Empire up until 1883, until the British arrived. But nevertheless, Egypt kept a very close relationship with Turkey because they were very near. So on the left, there's a Turkish cigarette called Murat, and it's from the United States, but from a Greek tobacco merchant, because obviously their name. On the right, the Kiryazi Frères, there are two brothers that they were operating from Cairo in Egypt, and they were exporting cigarettes left, right, and center, I guess. Also here, we have two other examples. The one which is on the right is Camel cigarettes, but as you can see underneath it sells Turkish and domestic blend cigarettes. This is 100% American company from Reynolds Tobacco. The one on the left is again from Egypt, Egyptian cigarettes from another Greek merchant called Melakrino. And if you look closely at the slide, it gives an address in Shanghai as well. So that gives you an indication of how far they could sell these famous Egyptian or, well, Turkish tobacco cigarettes in reality. It's on the second line somewhere that it shows that here, you see China, Shanghai. So fast forward, following the Greek War of Independence in 1821 at the advent of the Greek modern state, which happened in 1830, tobacco production for domestic and also export markets continued with a plurality of brands. And the tobacco industry in Greece became a dominant industry in reality, which helped the development of the country's social, also economic development for the next say, more than 100 years. So here we see some examples of Greek cigarette brands in the 1930s up until the 1950s. The one on the left, which called Ela Special, it was majorly geared towards export markets. They were also selling them in Greece as well, but most of it went to export markets. The one which is in the middle and the one which is on the right, they were mainly for domestic consumption. The one which is in the middle, the lady who smokes a cigarette, was the very famous beauty in the 1930s, and she was Miss Greece for 1929 and 30, and she became the face of the cigarette as well, as you can see on the same photo on the upper left side. The one which is on the right, with the Z and the lady with the hat, it's of particular significance to me because my grandfather, who was a lawyer, nothing to do with tobacco himself, he was a legal advisor for this company for more than 20 years. And they were producing massive amounts of cigarettes as well. Now let's move to the public tobacco factory restoration and repurpose in Athens. This is a photo, bird's eye view, in fact, of the factory. It covers, as you can see, a whole block. So the story of the public tobacco factory in Athens goes hand in hand with the country's socio-political trajectory over the course of the 20th century. The factory was built between 1927 and 1930 by two Greek civic architects, and it was a very good example of the interwar modernist architecture in Europe. It was inaugurated in 1930, and it was the home of numerous tobacco factories, warehouses, and also it had a customs office for direct exports. That was because the tobacco industry in Greece at the time was a major factor of the country's development and commerce and also the banking sectors. So in the 90-something years existence of the building served as a prison, a Second World War air raid shelter. It housed, it housed refugees after the Second World War. It was home to the Greek Cabinet Office, the Ministry of Finance, and its present occupant is the Hellenic Parliament, the Greek Parliament in reality. The building was declared a historic monument by the Ministry of Culture in 1989 and currently forms a landmark of the capital's architectural heritage. Renovations on the building, they started in 2000, but efforts were slowed down due to the financial crisis in 2009, but they resumed renovation work in 2013 when the Neon Art Foundation pledged nearly 2 million euros. So they continued with the renovation until it was completed 2 years ago. So the tobacco factory story begins with tobacco, but ends with world-class contemporary art, as the building has demonstrated a remarkable resilience in successive transformations in its history. Now you got another bird's eye view of the restored building. As you can see, it covers a huge block, and that's in the city center. Now the restoration project, here we need a video. What do you think? Okay, are we good?
Βρισκόμαστε στον χώρο του πρώην καταναλωτικού εργοστασίου, ενός ιστορικού κτηρίου, το οποίο χτίστηκε το 1930 και μέχρι τώρα έχει διανύσει μια μεγάλη ιστορία. Σαν καπνεργοστάσιο παραγωγής καπνού στην αρχή, στη συνέχεια πέρασε από διάφορες φάσεις και στον πόλεμο φιλοξήνησε πρόσφυγες και έφτασε το 2000 να αποδοθεί στην Βουλή των Ελλήνων.
Ξεκινώντας από το σκοπό της παρουσίασης μιας περιοδικής έκθεσης σύγχρονης τέχνης, είμαστε περήφανοι που συμβάλλουμε στη δημιουργία ενός πλήρως εξοπλισμένου εκθεσιακού χώρου στο κέντρο της πόλης, ανοιχτού, φιλικού και προσβάσιμου σε όλους τους επισκέπτες. Καθοριστικό στοιχείο στην προσπάθειά μας ήταν ο σεβασμός στη διαδρομή του σημαντικού αυτού ιστορικά και αρχιτεκτονικά κτηρίου, αποτύπωμα της εγχώριας βιομηχανικής κληρονομιάς και της ανάπτυξης πρωτεύουσας. Ειδικότερο αντικείμενο εργασίας αποτέλεσε η συνέχιση και ολοκλήρωση της επισκευής των χώρων του κτηρίου με στόχο τη λειτουργική τους επανεκκίνηση. Αναπτύχθηκε συνολικά ο εκθεσιακός εξοπλισμός με εγκατάσταση νέων συστημάτων φωτισμού, τοποθέτηση επίπλων και δημιουργία νέων χώρων καθιστικού για το κοινό. Πραγματοποιήθηκαν τοπικές επισκευές τοιχοποιών και πλήρεις βαφές και ολοκλήρωση του βιομηχανικού δαπέδου σε όλους τους χώρους. Πραγματοποιήθηκε η λειτουργική αποκατάσταση των χώρων υγιεινής και δημιουργήθηκε νέος χώρος υγιεινής για ΑΜΕΑ.
Σε αυτό το πλαίσιο συνεργαστήκαμε πάρα πολύ στενά με τους ανθρώπους του νέου, με τη διευθύντριά του, με τους μηχανικούς. Έγιναν εργασίες γύρω στο 1/3 της έκτασης του κτηρίου. Όλος αυτός ο εξοπλισμός και όλη αυτή η υποδομή θα παραμένει στο κτίριο σαν παρακαταθήκη. Μετά το πέρας της έκτασης αυτής, η Βουλή θα έχει τη δυνατότητα να χρησιμοποιήσει αυτούς τους χώρους για ανάλογα πολιτιστικά εκπαιδευτικά δρόμενα και θα αποδοθεί βέβαια και στον κόσμο της περιοχής σαν ένα πολιτιστικό κέντρο της Βουλής.
Okay, this is a small, short video of the tobacco factory. So now I'm going to talk about the inaugural exhibition called Portals and its cultural significance to the building's industrial heritage. Last year, 2021, marked the 200 years since the start of the Greek War of Independence from the Ottoman Empire and the birth of the modern Greek state. In Portals, which was the title of the exhibition, parallels were drawn between this significant moment in Greece's history and the COVID-19 pandemic, which continues, unfortunately, to plague us all. So the ambitious restoration project opens a new chapter in the building's history, as well as exemplifies to Neon's commitment to reinvigorating the country's cultural heritage. The Portals exhibition is co-curated by the curator of the Pritzker Museum of Contemporary Art of Chicago and the chief curator of Neon, which is the Arts Foundation. The two co-curators have taken advantage of all renovated areas of the industrial space, so they have located the exhibits with a fairly distance among well, between each other. So visitors, they don't really feel overwhelmed by the exhibits. So the renovated space has been handed over to the Hellenic Parliament as a new cultural hub following the end of the exhibition, which was in December, well, the 31st of December, 2021. So from this month onwards, the building itself is part of the Greek Parliament, which the Parliament uses as its library and also as a printing office for the government gazette. I got some photos here from the fully restored dome and the main atrium of the building. Exhibition hall where you can see in front is an exhibit by Gianni Kounelis, who was, a Greek contemporary art sculptor and painter. And this is another exhibition hall, which is about the violence of Kurdish people with the television screens in front. And the last bit I want to talk is, although it has nothing to do with industrial heritage in reality, but it's about the exhibition itself, because I believe that it concerns us all. So the Portals exhibition and its meaning for humanity amidst the pandemic. The exhibition brings together 59 artists from 27 countries, including 15 new commissioned art pieces by the Neon Art Foundation. Participating artists' diverse cultural backgrounds offer a plurality of ideas, emphasizing their shared aspiration to create a portal into a new, more equitable, humane, pluralistic, and inclusive reality, and may I add, society as well. The concept of the new normal, which lies at the heart of Portals, was outlined by an Indian author in her 2020 Financial Times essay, which was titled "The Pandemic is a Portal." The article itself, it became the source of inspiration for the exhibition itself. So, quoting Roy from the Financial Times article, it says there that the pandemic is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging our carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly with little luggage, ready to imagine another world, considering that the risk created by the pandemic on an individual and collective level, it opens a portal. And it's up to us to deal with our transition through it. This is a quote from Roy herself. And the last bit is just 2 minutes about the Neon Art Foundation. Neon was founded in 2013 by the art collector Daskalopoulos, who is an industrialist, and it's a non-profit foundation. The aim is to bring contemporary art closer to the public. And the other important thing of Neon is that they go around Athens and other big cities in Greece, and they look for various spaces, including abandoned buildings that they refurbish. Some of them actually they are restored, like the Parliament, like the tobacco factory, that is. And they organize exhibitions that allow visitors to experience the exhibitions and the buildings from a fresh optical angle. Neon's latest and most ambitious project has been the public tobacco factory, as I have shown, which they collaborated and also they funded with the Hellenic Parliament. I think that will be all for today. Thank you very much for your attention. And that's all from me now. Yes?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kosti.
There's also, there's also a video that we can show from the Neon Foundation there. It's very short, just 4 minutes, if you care to watch it.
Το Neon φιλοδοξεί να αναδείξει τις πιο ανίσχυες και δημιουργικές δυνάμεις της κοινωνίας μας. φιλοδοξεί να αποτελέσει ένα ζωντανό οργανισμό παραγωγής ιδεών και έργων και να δώσει ευκαιρίες επαφής με τις ιδέες της σύγχρονης τέχνης σε όλους.
Νομίζω ότι με τον νεοσύστατο οργανισμό νέων και προσωπικά με τον Δημήτρη Δασκαλόπουλο, που διαθέτει μια από τις σημαντικότερες συλλογές διεθνώς, βρήκαμε τους τρόπους και νομίζω ότι στην πορεία αυτό θα δώσει και τους καρπούς του, να στηρίξουμε και να δούμε νέους τρόπους που μπορεί να στηριχθεί αυτό και μάλιστα σε μια κρίσιμη στιγμή για την χώρα μας.
To me, cultural institutions are a place of reflection, they're a place of intellectual inquiry, and they're a place of immense pleasure. I think in the face of the perhaps anxieties about global economies and environmental degradation, the cultural institution is a space where we can have a confrontation with the aesthetic and with the philosophies that underwrite the making of art.
Greece is in a very perilous and extremely painful moment, but I think we all have tremendous hope for its recovery and its advancement. It's not historically without precedent that at a moment of great crisis, important cultural innovations can happen and advance also.
Σχεδιάζουμε μια στρατηγική για την Αθήνα, η οποία θέλει να αναδείξει την πόλη μας ως σημείο αναφοράς και κέντρο παραγωγής του σύγχρονου πολιτισμού.
I think that the initiative of Neon of bringing art in open place, in such a place, is a true gift. And what I love in contemporary art today in gardens, it's free. It's free as we wish to be in some ways.
What is interesting about Neon is, of course, that on one hand it's driven by a very strong-minded individual who has brought a very strong team of people together around him. It's interesting that it emerges in a moment which many would describe as extremely challenging, but very often very exciting things and very interesting initiatives happen under those circumstances. So to set this up in Greece at this particular moment in time could potentially be really interesting, not least because it is very well resourced.
Εγώ μέσα από την τέχνη συμμετέχω πληρέστερα στο σύγχρονο γίγνεσθε, στον προβληματισμό αυτών που δημιουργεί την εξέλιξη και την πρόοδο.
Θα ήθελα και ο ρόλος της τέχνης να είναι να αμφισβητεί συνέχεια τα δεδομένα και την οργάνωσή μας και το σύστημά μας, έτσι ώστε να μπορούμε να εμπλουτίζουμε τον τρόπο με τον οποίο αυτοοργανωνόμαστε πιο δημιουργικά. Με ενδιαφέρει πάντα όταν η τέχνη μας συνεισφέρει στο να ευθυγραμμιζόμαστε σε σχέση με την ουσία της ύπαρξής μας. Μας υπενθυμίζει δηλαδή το ουσιαστικό.
I think the role of cultural institutions in the world we live in is really that of a connector. I think in a multicultural environment, international culture is what everybody is really fascinated by.
Art, because it's art, has an impact to society, to each other. And me, as an artist, what I try to do in my work is to get in contact with, not with society, but with what I call the other.
Η σχέση μου με την τέχνη είναι βιωματική, είναι σχέση ζωής. Η εφευρετικότητα και η δημιουργικότητα που απαιτώ από τον εαυτό μου σε κάθε μου δραστηριότητα ενισχύεται από την ενασχόλησή μου με την τέχνη και τα καλλιτεχνικά δρώματα. Και αυτό νομίζω ότι μπορεί να γίνει κτήμα ή κατάκτηση του καθενός.
It is one of my ambition to do a work of art for what I call a non-exclusive audience. What is this? A non-exclusive audience is something who includes everybody, but everybody means not the mass. Everybody means the who is not interested in art, the who has not love to art, the who perhaps is only a passerby or as accident is in touch to art. I want to include what I call the non-exclusive, because I don't make also a distinction then between the passerby or the neighbor or my next and the art lover, the art collector,
Αν μου λέγατε να συνοψίσω τι είναι αυτό που θέλουμε να δώσουμε, είναι εμπειρίες τέχνης, ανοιχτές και ελεύθερες σε όλους. Αυτή η ελευθερία της πρόσβασης, δηλαδή η ισότητα όλων μας απέναντι στην τέχνη, είναι πολύ σημαντική υπόθεση για εμάς.
What I think that Neon is able to do is to create an international dialogue so that there is a conversation amongst people who are really working in the realm of ideas. What is the most exciting art being made today? How do we present it? What is its educational potential? How do we reach audiences? So I think we have much to learn from our colleagues in Greece, and Neon is enabling that crucial dialogue. I think we're going to see some amazing things emerging from that in the form of exhibitions, publications, and new arts initiatives.
I think what we can predict is that a well-run private organization such as this one will be catalytic. One of the challenges of being in a not-for-profit organization is recognizing that its timetable for success is very different than a political or a financial one. So to some degree, what we're doing is investing in people who will overturn what we believe in 20 years from now. And that's really the central goal of contemporary art. Change, digesting change, reconsidering change, and promoting change.
Γιατί η πεποίθησή μου είναι ότι μόνο αν παράγουμε πάλι τέχνη, σκέψη, πολιτισμό, θα μπορέσουμε να βγούμε από τη σημερινή κρίση, την οποία μας βολεύει να βαφτίζουμε οικονομική, ενώ είναι κατά βάση πολιτισμική.
Well, this is this, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your very rich and informative presentation.